In this video, we're going to talk about how to submit a compelling offer and different strategies you can implement to improve your chances of winning the deal every single time. So at this stage of the home purchasing process, you've already done your shopping and found the home of your dreams. You're ready to submit an offer. Congratulations. You're very excited, you love the house. However, you need to be aware that there are a lot of other people that also love this house and also believe it's the home of their dreams. Your job is to make your offer compelling in a competitive environment like this to make sure you beat out all those other people and you land the deal. So how do you do that? In this video, we're going to talk about the different terms that are negotiable in a contract, how to make them more compelling, and different strategies that you can implement to improve your chances of having your contract accepted. All right, so different contract terms. We're going to run down them. Earnest money deposit. Typically, right now in the state of Florida, 1% is average. So the higher the earnest money deposit, the more favorable a term it is for the seller. So if you want to be more compelling, more competitive against other people, you want to put down more than 1%. Pretty simple. Contract price. Now, there's a lot that goes into the contract price. You want to, for sure, look at comps in the area to make sure that the value of the home is there before you put in a contract price into the deal. However, what you also need to be aware of is the amount of days that the house has been sitting on the market. Typically speaking, the fewer the days the house has been on the market, the more leverage it is for the seller and the less room for negotiation that there is. The longer the house sits on the market, the less leverage there is for the seller and the more room for negotiation in the list price. So again, if it's a house that's just come on the market, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days, you want to get to as close to that asking price as possible. If not at asking or above asking, if you really love the home and you do not want anyone else to win the deal. So keep those things in mind. Also in the same realm of contract prices is seller's concessions, because they kind of go hand in hand. If you're someone out there who really wants or really needs a seller's concession to save you money to bring to the closing table, there are strategies that you can implement to keep your deal as competitive as other people who don't or who are not asking for seller's concession. For instance, if it's a $300,000 asking price on a home, instead of offering $300,000 with a $5,000 concession, maybe you offer $305,000 with that $5,000 concession. That way the seller still gets what they're asking for and you still get your seller's concession. You're just financing $5,000 more, which really only raises your monthly payment up very nominally. So again, just the strategy with the seller's concession that you can use. Right to inspect or cancellation period. Typically right now it's about a 10-day period in the state of Florida. Anything more written into a contract is going to make you less competitive to other people. Anything less than 10 days is going to make you more competitive with other people. Only caveat I will say to that is do not write an inspection or right to cancel period into a contract for less than 7 days. You need to contact an inspector. They need to get out to the house and inspect it. Turn around an inspection report to you. You need to review the inspection report and negotiate any items with the sellers. You need at least 7 days to do all those things. Do not let yourself get into a situation where you're stuck in a contract and you never had enough time to get the house inspected. You don't want to be in that scenario. And then the last term we'll talk about before we jump into the different strategies is just the number of days to close. This seems pretty obvious, but every situation is different. Typically speaking, the longer it is, the closing date is written into the contract, the less competitive you are making your deal. The faster the closing date is in the contract, the more competitive you are making your offer. 30 days is about average in Florida, so anything more than that, you're risking losing the deal out to someone else. If you're going to write less than 30 days into a contract, just make sure you get with your lender first to make sure that that's even possible. The real estate industry is kind of firing on all cylinders right now, and lenders are extremely busy. Appraisers are extremely busy. Just make sure if you're going to write, let's say, a 25 days to close into your contract, that you can actually meet that date. Because if you don't and your loan is not ready and you're not clear to close by the closing date, you're technically in breach of contract. You could lose your earnest money deposit, or you have to get an extension signed, which is not guaranteed. Either way, you do not want to be in that scenario because you're going to have to essentially ask the seller for a favor, and you don't want to do that. So those are some of the terms that are negotiable. Now, what are some strategies that you can use to improve your chances of getting your highly compelling offer accepted? First one is offer acceptance date. Let's say it's a super hot house. Again, it's only been on the market a couple days. You love it. 10 other people love it. And there's about 100 other people who haven't seen the house yet who are going to love it and want to submit offers. What you could do in this instance, again, let's say it's a $300,000 house and you write a super aggressive offer. Let's say you come in at $305,000, $5,000 over asking price, right? And you know it's going to be a multi-offer situation. What you can do is reduce the offer acceptance period down to, let's say, 24 hours into the contract. That way, you're basically telling the sellers, you have 24 hours to accept my deal, otherwise it's off the table, right? Hold their feet to the fire and watch how fast your contract gets accepted. You're going to cut out all of those potential buyers who may be waiting for the weekend or can't see it until 2 days from now because they're out of town or they're working or whatever. You're going to cut all those people out who potentially could outbid you. Maybe you want to go super aggressive with something. Maybe you write a contract that's $310,000 and you give them 12 hours. Maybe you give them 6 hours. Again, hold the seller's feet to the fire if you find yourself in a super competitive environment. Second strategy, we're going to talk about what's known as an escalation clause. Oftentimes in a multi-offer situation, there's really not a whole lot of transparency about the offers that you're bidding against. You typically do not know the contract price that other people are submitting. And even if the other realtor tells you, there's no way of knowing that realtor is really telling you the truth, right? I mean, they're supposed to, by law, really not say anything, but whatever, they can say whatever they want. One way you can kind of combat against that is by writing what's called an escalation clause in the contract. And essentially it'd be written something like this. Again, you're offering $300,000 on a $300,000 house. You can say, in the escalation clause, our offer is $300,000, but we'll increase and beat out any other higher offer by $3,000 up to a maximum contract price of $320,000. Now, that sounds like a lot of legal mumbo jumbo, but essentially what it says is if someone comes in and beats out your $300,000 offer, you're willing to go $3,000 over their asking price as long as the seller can prove that they have a legitimate contract. You're going to beat them out in terms of contract price every single time up to a maximum contract price of $320,000. So if someone comes in, at $321,000, you're not going to go to $324,000 at that point. At that point, you're going to get beat out. But it allows you to set lateral limits as to what you're comfortable with. What's your highest number? And you're not going to get beat out if it's anything lower than that highest number. So that's essentially what an escalation clause is. Last strategy we're going to talk about is writing a personal letter about why you love the house, what you like about it, and what potentially it's going to do for you and your family. Just putting a personal touch on it. If you have pictures of your family, maybe your wife, maybe your husband, maybe your dog, your kids, whatever, include that in the letter, but it adds a personal touch. People make decisions based off of emotions, and all things being equal, if your offer is the same exact offer as someone else who didn't submit a personal letter, a heartfelt letter, the odds are after reading something like that, you're going to go with the person who's put the personal touch on it. So again, it's not guaranteed and it may not make a difference every single time, but it certainly can't hurt to write that personal letter and submit it with any offer that you put in on a home. So to recap, we talked about the different negotiable terms in a contract. We talked about the earnest money deposit, the contract price and seller's concessions, the right to cancel period, and the number of days to close, and what out of all those terms makes it more favorable for the seller, and how to make those terms more compelling for the seller so your offer is accepted. And then we talked about 3 strategies. We talked about the contract acceptance date, how to shorten that up in a really tightly competitive environment if you have a really aggressive offer. Talked about escalation clauses, which is a way in a situation where you don't have a lot of transparency about the offers you're competing against to make sure that you don't get beat out up to what your maximum price is that you want to go to. And lastly, we talked about writing a personal letter and including that in with your offer to, again, kind of play at the emotions of the sellers making the decisions. So I can't tell you how much goes into contract situations. Every scenario is different, every single property, and things can change rapidly. You really need a good realtor to help navigate and explain every situation to you because, again, it really can vary and is really no two negotiations are ever the same. If you have any questions, either about a specific deal or you want to get started in the home purchasing process, please feel free to contact me at any time. Call, text, or email, whichever method you prefer. I'm here to answer anything that you may have. I really appreciate everyone out there for watching these videos. Thank you so much.